On the icy bridge amid a bitterly cold winter night, when the bone-chilling cold air and the howling wind seeped through every crack, the dim glow of street lamps reflecting on the fragile layer of ice on the gloomy river created a scene both beautiful and threatening. The bridge, like a slender ribbon of silk, stretching across the pitch-black sky under the feeble light of the street lamps, with each shard of ice glittering with silver intermingled with the blue of the winter night, rendered the surrounding space enchanting yet harboring countless uncertainties. The sound of the wind howling through every curve of the bridge was like the whisper of fate, echoing throughout the space and heralding that something was about to happen. Amid that frigid atmosphere on the railing of the bridge, Jada Collins, the young woman with sorrowful eyes and a soul filled with loneliness, stood alone. Born into a family bound by strict prejudices regarding skin color, Jada had always endured her family's contempt because of the indelible marks of the past. Today, in the bitterly cold winter night, her face displayed traces of exhaustion mixed with despair, as if all the pain and resentment had been etched into every line. Her eyes were vacant, devoid of any hope, containing only a deep-seated sadness in her soul, as she stood there in the vast expanse of the dark night, ready to step into the abyss of her own destiny. In that decisive moment, as Jada faltered along the fragile railing, the cold wind howled even more fiercely, as if nature itself could not remain silent before the pain of humanity. The resonant waves rising from beneath the river swept away all thoughts, causing time to seemingly come to a halt in that breathless moment. At that very moment, a symbolic image suddenly appeared in Jada's mind. The high-heeled shoe, originally a symbol of elegance and modern beauty, unexpectedly slipped from the foot of the woman rushing amid the crowd, flying up and falling down like a herald of the collapse of order. The image of the shoe rolling on the ice, with the fragile surface cracking along each break, rendered everything fragile, as if outward values suddenly shattered under the weight of a cruel reality. Amid the desolate scenery and the echoes of the winter night, Jada stood there, her eyes devoid of any light, filled only with despair and profound loneliness. She uttered not a single word, neither a sigh nor a cry, only a gloomy silence like the lament of an entire lifetime. Each passing second seemed to stretch on endlessly, leaving echoes of pain and helplessness in the space of fate. She stood before the abyss, where beneath her feet the gloomy river harbored countless mysteries, just like her own life, fragile, easily shattered amid inescapable pressures. The dim light of the street lamps, the cold howling wind, and the sounds echoing from the riverbed created a vivid picture, full of breathless tension and not lacking in romantic sorrow. In that scene, Jada appeared like a black statue, sculpted from loneliness and the yearning to break free from the chains of prejudice. Every gesture, every feature on her face told the story of a soul seeking an escape, yet simultaneously carrying the vulnerability and the unyielding pain of years burdened by family oppression and contempt. As the wind blew stronger, the echo of the waves from beneath the river further intensified the suffocating atmosphere, as if nature itself conspired in echoing Jada's pain. She stood there, gazing into the distance, where the night sky held not a single star, only dark, drifting clouds like fragments of fading memories of a past she could never forget. The sensation of fear and anxiety, intermingled with despair, weighed heavily in her heart, making each step seem like a battle against fate itself, a challenge to overcome the prejudices deeply ingrained in her very being. In that fateful moment, when everything seemed to have reached the pinnacle of stagnation and suffering, the space around Jada suddenly became profoundly still. The sound of the wind, the waves, and even the silent sounds of the winter night seemed to merge into one, creating a melancholy symphony, like the whisper of the universe conveying the message that no matter how harsh life may be, there still exists a ray of hope, however fragile, that can illuminate the path for those who dare to move forward. But on that night, with her soul burdened by prejudice and loneliness, Jada could only feel the paralysis of fate, the burying of faith within her heart, as if everything were just a dream that would never come true. Immediately after the bloody scene on the frozen bridge ended, Jada Collins' story gradually unveiled the deep-seated pains of the past. The contempt of her family had always been an ominous shadow, submerging her soul into loneliness and inferiority. Born with mixed blood, Jada always felt different, not valuable enough in the eyes of her relatives, causing every step she took to be deeply imprinted with pain and rejection. The ridicule, disdainful glances, and even the gentle yet haunting gestures of her family had created an invisible wall surrounding her heart, making her always feel lost amidst ordinary life. Meanwhile, Brad Pitt, a talented billionaire, a man possessing kindness and grace in every gesture, was also struggling with the inevitable pressures from his conservative family traditions. Although he possessed everything that ordinary people dreamed of, Brad still felt as if he were trapped in an inescapable framework, where family honor and outdated traditions were always enormous barriers, preventing him from fully expressing himself. Every day, Brad had to face pressures not only from high-stakes business but also from judgments and reminders of his family's traditions, a responsibility he could not refuse despite his inner doubts. Between two people who seemed to live at opposite ends of society, Jada and Brad unexpectedly found a profound empathy in each other. Both endured wounds from the past, injuries caused by family prejudice, and the immeasurable pressures of tradition. Jada, with her delicate yet resilient soul, had once dreamed of living a free life, unbound by old prejudices. Meanwhile, Brad, though appearing strong and powerful on the outside, always harbored a deep loneliness within, a longing for a time when he could love freely and be loved without suffering the suppression of stifling traditions. The meeting between Jada and Brad was not a random coincidence, but the result of intertwined fates. In the quiet moments of life, when everything seemed to have become meaningless under the weight of betrayal and prejudice, the two lost souls found each other like two fragile flames, ready to light the path to freedom. They shared with each other their deepest confessions, the pains that could only be understood by those who had once endured the contempt of family or been confined by inescapable traditions. Every word, every gesture from them was an affirmation that, even though life was full of losses, as long as one remained true to oneself, a person could still rediscover the faith that had been lost. In a quiet evening at Jada's small apartment, when the atmosphere was filled with the sighs of the past and bitter memories, she recalled the criticisms, the disdainful glances from her family. Those memories were like dark fragments that had created the picture of a life that was never truly free. However, in Jada's heart, that pain was not only a burden, it was also the motivation that made her yearn for a day to live truly, to love freely, and to be cherished for who she truly was. She dreamed of a future free from the limitations of prejudice, where each individual could shine in their own way without being bound by outdated traditions. Brad, in his private moments amid the weight of responsibilities and family pressures, could not help but think of the things he had lost. In the quiet moments by the tall window, when the city lights sparkled like fragments of hope, he felt the silent loneliness seeping into his soul. Memories of a time when he was loved, when he lived freely and did not bear the burden of reproach, weighed heavily on him. Every night, Brad would remind himself that, no matter how many achievements he had reached, deep inside, he still longed for genuine love, for a freedom unbound by the limitations of family. Amid the gloomy atmosphere of prejudice and the loneliness of fate, the paths of Jada and Brad gradually overlapped. They began to find in each other comfort, quiet sharing about their own pains, as if fate had predetermined a meeting for them to overcome the arduous barriers together. In every story, every silent tear, they gradually realized that only by facing the painful past and accepting their emotional wounds could they rediscover the light of freedom and the faith in life. They were not only two people struggling with society's prejudices, but also symbols of the desire to rise above fate, the desire to live truly, to love, and to be free. As the evening slowly gave way to night, the faint light from the window of Jada's small apartment highlighted her calm features. She sat silently, her eyes filled with sorrow yet determined, as if in that moment, the past and the present blended into a symphony of longing and hope. She told herself that no matter how thick the family prejudices or how encompassing the loneliness of fate might be, as long as she remained true to herself, she would find a way to break free from the invisible chains and step into a future of freedom, where each individual could shine in their own unique way. Brad was no longer the man of his old dreams. In quiet moments by the window, he gazed into the distance, where the city lights sparkled like fragments of hope, and silently vowed that, even if he were confined by tradition and family pressure, as long as he dared to face himself, he could still find the path to true freedom and happiness. The empathy and shared understanding between Jada and Brad created a deep bond, as if fate had ordained that these two would be each other's motivation to overcome all the barriers of the past. In the darkness of the night, under the dim yellow light, Jada and Brad walked together on the path in search of truth and freedom, where the pains and emotional wounds were gradually healed by the faith in themselves. They shared every story, every silent tear, and even gentle laughter, as if those moments were the precious gems amid a life strewn with losses. That empathy ignited in their hearts the flame of hope, of a future without rigid prejudices, where every person could freely love and be cherished for who they are. As night slowly yielded to the light of dawn, Jada and Brad gradually found a bit of light, a bit of faith. Faith in a new life, where the past, no matter how painful, could not hinder the longing for freedom and happiness. They understood that, although the road ahead was full of hardships and challenges, as long as they maintained their faith and courage, they would overcome everything. And in every step, every moment together, they engraved a profound message about the value of self-awareness, about the power of sincere love, and about the unyielding faith amidst life's journey. With a soul that had endured so much pain and loss, Jada Collins was no longer a lonely girl, no longer a victim of family prejudice. She had found within herself the strength to stand up, to freely choose her own path, and in that, the empathy and sincere love with Brad Pitt became a launching pad for a new future. A future where self-respect and faith in oneself were restored, where every person could live truly without bearing the oppression of the past. In the shimmering light of dawn, Jada held her head high, her eyes bright with hope and determination, as if she had found the escape from the invisible chains of prejudice, opening a new chapter in her life, a chapter of freedom, of true love, and of undying faith. Every passing moment in Jada's small apartment seemed to bring a sense of calm, although the emotional wounds remained deeply imprinted, but they were the evidence of the healing process of a strong soul. Brad and Jada, through their quiet conversations and empathetic sharing, created an unbreakable bond. A bond among those who always longed to live truly, to love freely, and to be cherished regardless of society's prejudices. In the intermingling of loneliness and the yearning for freedom, they realized that, as long as one remained true to oneself, anyone could overcome the old barriers and step into a more complete life. And so, between the darkness of the night and the light of the morning, the story of Jada Collins and Brad Pitt began to open a new chapter, a chapter of reborn faith, of love that transcended all prejudices, and of self-awareness that helped them rediscover themselves. The footsteps on the path to freedom were not only a journey of overcoming the past, but also a testament to the inner strength of each person, to the belief that no matter how many challenges life presented, as long as one dared to face them and maintained their faith, the way to happiness would always be found. In the cold atmosphere of the evening, as night gradually fell, Jada received messages that offered no explanation, but carried the deep mark of a gloomy past and the disdain of her own family. Those messages were like lurking curses, echoing through each character, leaving Jada's heart in turmoil between fear and worry. She opened her phone in the dark room, the dim light of the screen reflecting her tired face, and each line of text appeared like the whisper of destiny. The past never forgives. You can never change fate. These cold warnings seemed to remind Jada that, No matter how hard she tried to hide it, the soul scars of her family would always be indelibly imprinted over time. In the quiet space of the modern apartment where Jada resided, the silent walls seemed to contain all the pains of the past. She sat quietly by the window, her eyes watching the shimmering city lights outside. But inside, a storm of emotions was brewing. The threats sent were not just soulless words, but also contained the disdain of her family, the people Jada once trusted, but now like cold ghosts, making her feel that she had become a victim of an unavoidable fate. Not only Jada, elsewhere in the same corporation, Brad Pitt, the strong man regarded as a symbol of self-control and power, also began to notice signs of warning from his own family. In a private meeting among close relatives, the whispers of family members revealed suspicions about his relationship with Jada. Those warnings were like small pieces, yet enough to stir deep doubts in Brad's mind. He recalled times when he had heard of his ancestors' curse, of dark destinies passed down through generations, leaving him to wonder if this love affair was leading him into an abyss that no one could rescue. While Brad struggled with feelings of unease, memories from the past echoed like distant reverberations. In his heart, the relationship with Jada was not just a simple love affair, but also a test of destiny. Each time he recalled the warnings from his relatives, Brad felt an indescribable weight, as if fate itself had been predetermined, waiting to drag him into the abyss of wrong decisions. He felt the curses of the past, the cold voices from his family echoing throughout his soul, making each of his steps filled with doubt and uncertainty. Amid that atmosphere, destiny seemed to intersect when Jada and Brad were no longer merely two separate individuals, but became two pieces of a harsh fate's picture. The smallest signs, threats, mysterious messages, and questioning glances had created a gloomy veil, concealing dark secrets from the past. Jada, with a heart already weary from indelible wounds, now felt even more drawn into a game of destiny, where everything seemed to have been meticulously arranged. She wondered if she was becoming a victim of an invisible manipulation, where the warnings were not only curses of the past, but also omens for a painful future. In those moments, between the dim light of the room and the cold wind blowing through the window frame, Jada clearly sensed a strange intersection of fate. Every threat, every message from her relatives seemed to remind her that nothing could escape the fragments of the past. Those fragments would remain indelibly imprinted, even if she tried to hide or forget them. And gradually, with each passing minute, Jada's destiny became increasingly unpredictable. It was like a winding road, leading her to unforeseen turns, where the signs of intersecting destiny gradually revealed the heartbreaking truth of life. While Jada was struggling with anxiety, Brad also realized that his destiny was being challenged. The warnings from his own family, words filled with doubt and caution about his relationship with Jada, made him question himself and the decisions he had once believed to be right. Brad felt as if every whisper, every warning from his relatives was gnawing at his soul, forcing him to rethink the path he was on. The pieces of the past, the curses passed down through generations, seemed to exist within every member of his family, creating an atmosphere of gloom and contradiction, making him worry about the future of that tangled love. As fate gradually revealed itself, the destiny of Jada and Brad seemed to be woven by thin but immensely powerful threads. The warnings from the family, the threatening messages, and the untraceable words all together created a picture full of hidden meaning, where every small detail contained a profound significance. It was not only the signs of the past, but also a prophecy of a future that might change everything. The intersection of fate, in the light and darkness of the late night, seemed to open a door to a story full of tragedy and romance, where belief and destiny met in an uncompromising struggle. In that context, Jada gradually felt that, no matter how hard she tried to hide it, the signs of destiny had already been seeping into her life. She could no longer be indifferent, could no longer pretend that everything was as stable as before. Every threat, every message from the past was like a key unlocking the secrets she had once hidden, forcing her to confront a dark reality. And in that moment, Amidst the storm of signs and warnings, destiny intersected, and Jada began to realize that she was not only a victim of personal wounds, but also a witness to a destiny that had been arranged long ago. In the moment when Jada seemed to lose control of herself, when the storm of chaotic emotions pushed her toward the abyss of despair, fate revealed a surprising turning point. Just then, when she appeared about to plunge into the abyss of self-destruction, Brad Pitt, with determination and an explosive burst of love and loyalty, charged forth like a raging storm, decisively extending his arm to pull Jada. That rescue act was not merely a gesture of care, but also an expression of an irreversible decision, opening a ray of hope amid the darkness of fate. In the private space of an empty corridor, where the dim light of the lamps and the cold wind howled, that scene seemed to be frozen forever. Brad appeared with the speed of a storm, his eyes blazing, without a moment's hesitation, as he rushed into the midst of the chaotic crowd. His powerful sweeping of the arm was like a declaration. I will not let you fall into the abyss of destiny. Every step Brad took exuded decisiveness and strength, as if he were fully prepared to protect the one he loved from every danger in life. When Brad touched Jada's shoulder, the feelings of both seemed to merge into a single echo of love and determination. The clash of their two hearts, amid the cold wind and the dim lights, resounded like a symphony of hope in the gloomy atmosphere. That feeling, like a faint ray of light in the dark, suddenly awakened Jada, as if that very moment opened a door to a new opportunity, to a path far removed from the pains of the past. Brad, with eyes filled with determination, gently said, "Don't let fate sweep you away, Jada. You still have the right to choose." His words were like fragments of hope, piecing together the broken pieces of Jada's soul. In that moment, it seemed that the surrounding space was filled only with the sound of pounding hearts and the breath of revived faith. The warmth emanating from Brad's hand seemed to melt away layer after layer of icy fears, making Jada feel the power of love, a power that could dissolve every harsh destiny. The gazes of passers-by also seemed to shift, from surprise to empathy, as they witnessed that deeply moving scene. In that moment, Brad's image appeared like a hero in a complex love story, a man not only protecting Jada from her own collapse, but also defying fate, opening a ray of hope amid the darkness of destiny. The clash of two hearts, merged with the howling wind and the flickering lights, resembled a poignant musical piece, recounting the story of life, love, and resolute decisions. After the rescue, Brad and Jada stood there under the faint light of a street lamp, facing a painful reality that was also full of hope. The atmosphere around them was silent, with only the sound of beating hearts and the gentle breaths of life remaining. Jada, with eyes glistening from tears, looked at Brad as if she had found salvation, a solid support amid the storms of life. In that moment, all troubles, all destinies seemed to be buried beneath the strength of sincere love, opening a new page where every heart was granted the chance to rediscover itself. Brad gently stroked Jada's hair, as if to soothe the wounds of her heart, and said to her in a warm voice, "You are not alone. You have me by your side. Let us walk through this darkness together to find the light of tomorrow." Those words, like a vow from hearts that had once endured so much pain, forged a deep empathy, making both of them seem to become part of a destined story, where every action, every decision carried the power of love and faith. Amid the howling cold wind, the dim light of the lamps seemed to reflect fragments of the past and the present, and the scene of the two hearts merging became more vivid and intense than ever. That feeling was not merely a moment of rescue, but also a symbol of a new beginning, of a love that dared to challenge all destinies, of a path leading to freedom. Brad's decisive appearance was like a turning point, dispelling doubts, cold threats, and opening a ray of hope for Jada, allowing her to re-examine herself and the path she was on. In that moment, everything seemed clearer. The fragments of the past, the mysterious warnings, and even the signs of intertwined destinies were perfectly arranged to guide Jada and Brad to an irreversible turning point. Together they faced challenges, the broken pieces of a past that had once shattered their hearts, and now, under the light of revived faith, they found the strength to move forward. After that decisive moment, Brad and Jada gradually left the chaotic space of the night, stepping onto a new path where every step carried faith, hope, and a longing to live fully. They moved forward together, leaving behind the ghosts of the past and the cold threats, and began to write a new chapter. A love story not only full of drama, but also deeply human, where destiny could be defied and love could conquer all dark fates. The clash of two hearts in the night, merging with the howling wind and the flickering lights, was like a symphony of hope and life, opening a gentle ray of light amid the darkness of destiny. It was the moment when all pain, all betrayal, and the wounds of the heart were gradually soothed by the power of sincere love, paving the way for a brighter future. That scene, marked by Brad's decisive appearance, left an indelible impression on Jada. A new faith, a beginning that would never succumb to the power of destiny. Every passing moment in that space seemed to engrave the promise of brave hearts, that no matter how harsh fate might be, no matter how full the past was of indelible scars, only sincere love could soothe all pain and bring hope for a brighter tomorrow. Brad's decisive appearance not only saved Jada from the brink of despair, but also ignited a flame in her heart, a flame of faith, of hope, and of love that could overcome all barriers of destiny. In the dim light of the late night, when everything seemed reduced to the echoes of the past and the gentle breaths of life, Jada and Brad continued together on a new path, the path of freedom, forgiveness, and faith in a future where every destiny can be rewritten. They knew that even if fate had left deep scars, as long as there is love and self-awareness, everything can change, and every heart can find its light after the storm. On the long road leading to the small apartment located in the city center, Jada Collins walked with a troubled mood, but did not stop. After the fateful events that had occurred, she now carried with her painful memories, fragments of the past that still seemed to haunt every step. In Jada's mind, the sorrowful words, the sighs of the past echoed incessantly, like melancholy notes in the symphony of fate. She began to open her heart, recounting to herself the old stories that she had once tried to hide, each narration like a piece helping her gradually rediscover herself. Amid the darkness of the past, she realized that to move forward, she must first learn to love herself. A journey full of hardships, but also containing hope for a bright tomorrow. In the quiet evenings by the dim desk lamp, Jada sat facing the mirror, watching her own faded reflection. She recalled the times when she was ridiculed, the contemptuous looks and the slanderous words from her family, which left her heart forever burdened with inferiority. But now, in that moment of quiet, she decided that she would no longer let those old wounds rule her. Every tear, every heartache seemed to become a source of inspiration, helping her learn to forgive herself and regain the lost faith. The journey to rediscover herself was not an easy road. It was a journey of silent steps amid the darkness, of lonely moments yet full of determination. Even though there were times when her heart sank because of the painful memories, Jada continued to walk, promising herself that one day she would find the inner strength to overcome all prejudices, to live fully according to her own heart. While Jada was struggling with herself, a colleague, Brad Pitt, the man once renowned for his success and kindness, appeared like a ray of light in the dark. Brad was not a perfect person. He also endured heavy pressure from a conservative family, from strict rules that never allowed him the chance to live the way he wished. The painful stories of Brad's past gradually emerged through whispered private conversations between the two. In Brad's eyes, Jada felt the loneliness, the pain of a man forever bound by tradition, by the pressures from a family that did not allow him to express his true self. On a pouring rainy evening, when raindrops beat against the window creating a gloomy sound, Brad and Jada accidentally met in the company's break area. The atmosphere at that time was filled with melancholy and rising emotions, as if the whole world around had fallen silent to listen to unspoken confessions. Brad opened his heart to talk about the pressure from his conservative family, about the constant criticism and prejudice from those around him. He spoke of moments when his heart felt as if it were melting, when he felt that he did not belong anywhere, when dreams and the desire to live fully seemed to be nothing more than distant aspirations. Jada, with a heart that had once been hurt, listened to every word of Brad as if it were a remedy, soothing the wounds in her soul. The empathy between the two grew deeper, as if they found in each other a companion to share the pain, a longing to be free from the shackles of prejudice in the past. Amid those quiet conversations, Brad and Jada together began the journey of seeking inner strength to face the pressures from family and social prejudices. They exchanged, sharing each story, each memory of times when their hearts felt choked by contempt and slander. Both realized that, even though the past was full of wounds that could never be healed, it was precisely from those wounds that they could learn the lesson of resilience, of the ability to stand up after every fall. Every shared word, every story was like a brick, helping to rebuild the broken trust, opening the path to self-awareness and personal freedom. In that moment, under the cold, rainy sky, they promised each other that they would never let the pressure from family or social prejudices decide their fate. However, while the two were striving to find their own escape, a dark secret silently crept into their lives. In the process of facing the pressures and the pain of the past, Jada unexpectedly discovered a truth that she had never dared to imagine. On a quiet afternoon, while she was silently arranging old mementos, a scrap of paper, an old letter, opened a door to the complex past of her family. The faint words, the recounting of a truth that had been hidden for so long, that Jada's family had long concealed their true origins, creating an inferiority complex and an overwhelming sense of injustice in her heart. This was like a strong shock, making her feel that everything she had once believed in and built was thrown into disarray, as if her life had been completely overturned. Not only Jada, but Brad too gradually had to face his own dark past. In private conversations between the two, Brad revealed that his family, although wealthy and successful, had always imposed rigid rules, not allowing him to live as his true self. He spoke of long, sleepless nights, of silent tears falling as he tried to reclaim his freedom, as he longed to live fully according to his own heart. The sense of injustice, the pain of oppression from a conservative family, had always been an invisible burden weighing on his shoulders, making every step he took laden with unforgettable memories. While the two shared their pains, they gradually realized that the wounds of the past, no matter how painful, were in fact the source of the motivation to ignite the desire for freedom, the yearning to live fully, according to one's own heart. The sad stories, the heartfelt recounting of the past, though they pained their hearts, also opened a door to empathy, to mutual understanding. They realized that only by learning to love oneself and to forgive the old wounds could they gradually overcome the pressures, the prejudices that life had imposed upon them. Sometimes pain is a harsh yet compassionate teacher, teaching them how to rise after every fall, how to rediscover themselves in the storm of fate. In the quiet atmosphere of the small room where they conversed together, Brad and Jada exchanged looks full of understanding, full of empathy. Both felt as if they were no longer alone, as if the pains of the past had now become a binding thread, creating a strong connection based on empathy and the longing to be free. They decided to continue together on the path of rediscovering themselves, to face the ghosts of the past, and to build a future of their own choosing. And in that moment, amidst the sound of the falling rain and the dim light of the street lamps, they sensed the inner strength reborn from old wounds, the strength that helped them rise even though the road ahead was full of thorns. While time seemed to stand still, Jada accidentally flipped open the old files hidden in the apartment's drawer. The faded golden pieces of paper, the faint handwritten lines recounted a story she had never heard, a story about the true origin of her family, about a secret long meticulously concealed. Gradually, Jada realized that her family had, from a very early time, tried to hide the truth about their lineage, about the mixing of different bloodlines, creating a profound inferiority complex and an immense sense of injustice. Every sheet of paper, every line seemed to reveal a fragment of a complex past, leaving her stunned and unable to help but question everything she had once believed. Not only Jada, but Brad also began to realize that his past was not as clear as he once thought. In private conversations, he recounted that his family always imposed rigid rules, not allowing him to express his true self, a person full of dreams and a yearning for freedom. He recalled the times he was ridiculed, the baseless reprimands, because he dared to be different, because he dared to live in the way he believed was right. Brad's pain, though seldom revealed, only deepened the empathy between him and Jada, as they both faced dark memories and pressures from a conservative family that never allowed them freedom. When Jada shared the secret of her family's origin with Brad, she sensed a profound empathy in his eyes. The two seemed to find each other in the storm of the past, where the unhealed wounds became connecting fragments, opening a new horizon of freedom and a longing to live fully. They realized that the very scars left by the past, however painful, were the motivation that enabled them to dare to dream, dare to change their fate. In every story, every account, both Jada and Brad admitted that the truth about their family was not only a burden but also a source of inspiration for them to rediscover themselves, to learn to love themselves and live true to who they are. In the quiet atmosphere of the evening, when the city lights sparkled like stars in the sky, Jada and Brad sat together at the desk, hand in hand, sharing unspoken confessions. Every page, every line from those old files seemed to ignite within them a flame of yearning for freedom, a desire to break free from the constraints of the past and family prejudices. They realized that, although the emotional wounds might never fully heal, the truth, however painful, was the only path that could help them overcome all pressures, all confinements of the past. In those moments, they faced themselves together, with memories that could never be erased. They realized that each person has the right to live in their own way, not according to the templates imposed by family or society. The empathy and sharing of pain between Jada and Brad served as a healing remedy, gradually helping them regain faith in the future. They slowly understood that the very wounds that once made them weak were the motivation that made them stronger, enabling them to stand up and assert themselves in the face of all prejudices and oppression. Brad and Jada vowed together that they would not let the past determine their fate, that they would live in the way their hearts choose. They told themselves that, even if there were dark secrets from the family, even if there were emotional wounds that had never healed, those things were only a part of the journey to rediscover themselves, of the process of growing up and attaining freedom. The truth they had just unveiled was not only a burden, but also a source of inspiration for them to begin a new chapter in life. A chapter of self-awareness, of courage, and of a yearning to live fully. As night fell, with the silver moonlight seeping through each window frame, Brad and Jada stepped out of the room together, carrying with them the belief that no matter how dark the past might be, the future would always open up with new opportunities. They looked at each other, their eyes filled with hope and determination, as if they had found each other amidst the storm of prejudices and loneliness. In that moment, all pressures, all pains seemed to vanish, leaving only the yearning for freedom, the yearning to live in the grand way that their hearts desired. As they walked along the crowded street, under the warm streetlights, the silent promises echoed in the space, like an affirmation that, from now on, they would not let the past determine their path. They were confident that, no matter how many difficulties, no matter how many unhealed emotional wounds, only honesty with themselves and faith in the future could lead them to a life that was free, complete, and meaningful. In Jada's heart, every step was like a new heartbeat, a reaffirmation that she was no longer a victim of family prejudices or old secrets. She had found strength from within, from the emotional wounds that were now gradually becoming the driving force for her to move forward. And Brad, with his determined eyes and warm heart, had become an indispensable companion, the one with whom she shared all her pain, all her faith, and the yearning to live true to herself. In the stillness of the late night, as the gentle wind blew through the trees and the moonlight reflected on the ground, Brad and Jada silently told each other that, although the past was full of ghosts, it was the truth, however painful, that would guide them to freedom. Together, they found deep empathy, a reborn self-belief from old wounds, and a yearning to live fully according to who they truly are. It was not only a journey of healing, but also a journey of growth, of self-awareness, and of true love, a love unbound by prejudices, by a dark past, or by family secrets. As the night gradually gave way to dawn, Brad and Jada stood together on a time-worn street, where each step echoed as an affirmation of the power of perseverance and reborn faith. They knew that the journey ahead was still full of challenges, but it was from the wounds, from the scars they carried, that they would find a way out, find the light leading to the future. And in the gentle light of the new morning, the two of them vowed together to live true to themselves, to never let the pressures, the secrets of the past, hinder the progress of a free heart. Brad and Jada, with unspoken vows and eyes filled with determination, continued together on the path of rediscovering themselves, a path built on sincerity, on love, and on the faith in a future freely chosen by them. Even if there were unhealed wounds, even if the ghosts of the past still lurked, they knew that as long as they trusted in themselves and in each other, everything would eventually pass, and they would live fully, freely, in the grand manner that their hearts desired. In the final moments of the night, when all sounds gradually fell silent and only the footsteps on the pavement remained, Brad and Jada stood together before the vast cityscape, where the shimmering light of street lamps and the intermingled shadows told a story of faith, of self-awareness, and of the yearning to live fully. Their story, though full of pain and tears, also carried a powerful message: that everyone has the right to be free, to live according to who they truly are, and that only by being true to oneself can one find the path leading to a radiant future. And so, in the light of the new dawn, Brad and Jada walked together with unshakable faith, opening a new chapter in their lives, a chapter of freedom, of sincere love, and of the courage to overcome all prejudices. They had learned that, although the past might leave deep scars, it is precisely from those scars that a person is forged, matured, and enabled to live fully, to live in the way that the heart has always yearned for, to live with faith in a brighter tomorrow. On the elegant ballroom floor of the modern mansion, where the dim lights together with subdued colors created a solemn yet gloomy atmosphere, a fierce confrontation erupted like an unannounced storm. Brad Pitt's family, renowned for their conservative traditions and uncompromising strictness, did not hesitate to express vehement opposition to the forbidden relationship between him and Jada. The party became a stage for a tense debate between heartfelt emotions and values handed down through generations. In the spacious room with high ceilings and exquisitely decorated walls, the voices of Brad's family members rang out like criticisms and merciless curses, suddenly making the atmosphere stifling and tense. Brad Pitt stood amid the crowd, his eyes shining with determination. Yet inside he was in turmoil from the pressure of tradition and the accusations of his loved ones. Bitter words and harsh judgments from his parents, siblings, and other family members echoed throughout the room like sharp knives piercing his heart. "You cannot do this," his father's voice resounded. "Our family has honor, and you must not let such things tarnish the glory of our lineage." That voice was like a thunderclap in the sky, shattering all of Brad's hopes for a free love, and making him feel even more bound by archaic rules that allowed no difference. Amid the storm of criticisms and sorrowful stares, Jada stood beside Brad, her face full of pain intermingled with resilience. She was the only person Brad could truly trust and love. But it was precisely that love which had made them both the target of relentless reproach. In that tense moment, as all eyes turned toward them, Brad felt the fierce tug of war between a heart burning with the desire for freedom and the duty of a child, of a man belonging to a prestigious lineage. Every curse, Every judgmental glance was like fragments of tradition, weighing down on his shoulders. Yet inside he summoned a new strength, the strength of courage, of a love that nothing could shatter. Amid the lively arguments, Brad no longer hesitated. He stepped toward the center of the room, where everyone had gathered to express their indignation. His eyes seemed to ignite under the dim lights, reflecting an unwavering determination in the face of traditional pressure. "I cannot live forever under the shadow of these meaningless criticisms," he declared, his voice resounding with power. "I have chosen my own path, the path of genuine love, of freedom, and of honesty." Brad's words struck the heavy atmosphere like a bolt of lightning, leaving everyone silent and motionless before the power of conviction and decisiveness. In that very moment, Brad decided to forsake everything, from wealth, power, to traditional bonds, in order to pursue true love alongside Jada. The atmosphere in the ballroom suddenly transformed. The criticisms and scornful looks gradually faded, giving way to astonishment and silence among all. Everyone witnessed a rare moment when a child dared to stand up against the prejudices passed down through generations. Brad Pitt, with extraordinary courage, declared that he was willing to sacrifice everything, honor, wealth, power, just to live true to himself. Amidst the emotionally overwhelming applause, Jada stood by his side, her eyes brimming with tears, yet also shining with strong faith in a love unbound by outdated rules. Amid the storm of debate and defiance, the atmosphere in the room grew so tense that every breath felt laden with destiny. Brad Pitt's family, though always proud of their traditions, now had to witness an unforeseeable transformation. A change in a child, in a heart that loved freedom, ready to give up everything to live according to his own true self. Whispers and unspoken, questioning looks spread throughout the space, creating a complex emotional picture between traditional pride and the yearning to live freely. Brad Pitt stood amid the storm, with steadfast eyes and a voice that rang out like the declaration of a man victorious over fate. He had chosen the path of love, a path that no one could prevent. His declaration was like a challenge to destiny, an affirmation that no matter how strong tradition might be, love and freedom remain values that surpass all boundaries. In that moment, everything became clear. Brad was no longer a victim of the past, but a man who had freely chosen his own destiny. In the dark storm, as rain fell in torrents and the cold wind blew through every alley of the city, Brad Pitt and Jada, with hearts burdened by wounds and souls burning with the yearning for freedom, decided to leave everything behind. Before the dim light of the street lamps, under the gloomy sky of a moonless night, they fled together from the siege of family and society, like lost souls seeking their own path. Both, with a harmony of hearts, decided to vanish on the ancient bridge, where the gentle river flowed by, like a challenge from fate to the values once imposed. The bridge, with its stone steps worn by time, had now become a symbol of transformation, of the road leading to a new future. A future where sincere love would no longer be shackled by the pressures and prejudices of tradition. On the bridge, under the shimmering yellow lights, and the sound of the cold wind whistling through every crevice, Brad and Jada held hands, their eyes merging in empathy and hope. They did not utter a word, letting the silence of the dark night speak for everything, that no matter how many difficulties, no matter how much pain, their love remained steadfast and would guide them to a future unbound by rigid rules. Every step they took on the bridge was like an unspoken declaration. We will live our way, no matter what consequences may follow. The storm of family and societal prejudices could not extinguish the desire for freedom in these two people. The sudden disappearance of Brad and Jada sent a shockwave throughout the community. News spread rapidly, causing not only Brad's family but also their loved ones and the surrounding community to face a major question. Is there a new future for those who dare to stand up against the pressures of tradition, or are they merely adventurers, those who have abandoned everything in pursuit of an unattainable dream? In the days that followed, the atmosphere in Brad's family grew chaotic and tense. Emergency meetings, fierce arguments, and the disappointed looks of relatives echoed like the lamentations of a fate that could not be determined. A family once proud of its conservative lineage and traditional values now had to witness an unacceptable transformation. The disappearance of Brad, who had once been their pride, now became a symbol of rebellion, of courage, and of the yearning to live according to one's own way. Meanwhile, the surrounding community gradually began to reflect on the meaning of the values they had once considered unchangeable. Dialogues, newspaper articles, and lively discussions emerged, raising the question, can sincere love overcome all boundaries of tradition and prejudice? Can forgiveness and self-awareness truly heal the heart wounds caused by betrayal? Each person, in their own mind, seemed to be searching for an answer to that unspoken question, a promise of a future where freedom and love might triumph. Brad and Jada, although having left everything behind, still left an indelible mark in everyone's heart. They were not only those who dared to stand against prejudice, but also symbols of faith and freedom. Their story spread like a flame, igniting hope in those bound by the past, for those who dreamed of one day living fully according to their own ways. Their disappearance, although bringing pain and loss to their family, opened a new chapter for the community, a chapter of self-awareness, of courage, and of faith in the ability to overcome all constraints. Amid the storm of accusations and condemnation, Brad and Jada found an escape, a path to freedom that did not depend on the rigid rules of family or society. On the bridge, under the starry night sky, they decided to walk together, leaving behind old bonds, opening up to a future filled with hope. They were like travelers on the road of fate, each step imbued with the belief that no matter how many obstacles lay ahead, sincere love would always guide them to a new life, a life no longer dominated by the prejudices and pressures of the past. As the light of dawn gradually broke, the courageous two remained deeply imprinted in the hearts of their loved ones and the community, as a reminder that sometimes, to be true to oneself, one must be willing to give up everything. They had chosen the path of love, the path of freedom, and the belief in the soul's ability to be reborn. Their choice, although bringing heavy consequences and leaving pain in the hearts of those around them, opened up a new story. The story of those who never submit to fate, of souls daring to face prejudice and willing to fight for freedom. After the dark days of opposition, when everything gradually fell silent and only the whispers of the past remained, the community began to realize that every individual has the right to live in their own way, unbound by the pressures and prejudices of tradition. The disappearance of Brad and Jada became a symbol for a new era, an era of self-awareness, of courage, and of the longing to live fully according to one's own identity. It was a powerful message, embedded in every story, in every self-reflection of those searching for their own way out. In the final moments of the night, as the rain continued to fall and the street lamps still twinkled on the pavement, the image of Brad and Jada on the bridge became a vivid picture, depicting the undying faith of sincere love. The couple, although having chosen to run away, had made a decision that opened a new chapter in life, a chapter of freedom, of self-affirmation, and of belief in the ability to overcome all constraints. Every step they took, every glance they exchanged, was like an unspoken promise that, no matter how many hardships life may bring, love and self-awareness would always be the powerful forces leading people to find themselves. When dawn arrived, Brad and Jada, with hearts no longer weighed down by the burdens of the past, stepped into a future full of promise. They left behind a ripple of shock, a question about fate and the human capacity to change destiny. Family, friends, and the community gradually began to reflect on the values they had once believed in, on the conservative traditions that might now be outdated. The story of the couple became a symbol, a reminder that no one can control another person's life forever, and that true freedom only comes when one dares to face the past and live in the way their heart desires. On the bridge, where Brad and Jada had decided to leave everything behind, The image of them under the nightlights remained forever imprinted in the minds of those who witnessed it as a powerful declaration of the strength of love and self-mastery. It was the moment when fate seemed to be upended, when old values were replaced by new faith, by an undying longing for freedom. And although the consequences of that choice might bring turbulent waves in family and community, Brad and Jada proved that only individuals have the right to determine their own destiny. In the days that followed, the echo of their flight still resounded, like a gentle yet powerful breeze blowing through every alley of the city. Relatives, friends, and even those who once admired Brad and Jada gradually realized that, although their choice had caused much controversy and pain, within it lay a profound message that sincere love and self-mastery can always triumph over the prejudices and pressures of tradition. As time passed, the story of Brad and Jada gradually became a legend, an inspiration for those young enough to dare to dream, to live according to their own way. The lessons of self-awareness, of the courage to face the past and overcome the constraints of society, were passed down through generations as a precious legacy that the couple left for the future. Their disappearance was not only the end of one chapter of life, but also the beginning of a new era, where people are no longer bound by rigid prejudices, where personal freedom and sincere love are honored as the highest values. Amid the lively debates and endless discussions, the image of Brad and Jada, the couple who dared to give up everything for love, always remained, as a reminder that, no matter how full of difficulties and pain life may be, the yearning for freedom, the courage, and the belief in oneself can always help people overcome every challenge. And in the light of the new dawn, as everything gradually became clear and hope filled the air, their story continued to be told, inspiring everyone who dared to dream and change their own destiny. Brad and Jada, with hearts brimming with renewed faith and freedom, stepped into a new chapter of life. A chapter where they were no longer bound by rigid rules or old prejudices. They proved that, although the wounds of the heart might forever remain a part of the past, it is forgiveness and self-mastery that are the keys to opening the door to a bright future. Their story, with all its pain, tears, and the rediscovered happiness, became a testament to the strength of love and of human beings. A strength that can overcome every pressure, every prejudice, and bring freedom to the soul. And so, under the clear sky of a new day, Brad and Jada walked together on the road to freedom, opening a new chapter in life, a chapter in which love and self-awareness would always triumph. They turned difficulties and old wounds into the motivation to live, to love, and to believe that only people have the right to be free, to live in the magnificent way that their hearts command. In every step they took, in every look they exchanged, they affirmed that, no matter how many challenges life may hold, the yearning for freedom and sincere love will always be the powerful force to overcome every prejudice of the past. On the bank of the calmly flowing river in the heart of the city, beneath the rosy sky of dawn, Jada Collins and Brad Pitt stood side by side, watching the water reflect the hazy images of the past and the present. That space, with the gentle early light filtering through every branch, seemed to open a door leading to a free future, where all old prejudices gradually melt away before the power of courage and true love. They stood there, in the silence of nature, yet their eyes contained so much faith in themselves and in the ability to change destiny with each brave step. Jada Collins, who once had to endure contempt and harsh prejudices solely because of her origins, now looked back on the long and arduous journey she had experienced. The long nights she silently shed tears by the window frame, the times when her heart seemed to shatter under the weight of criticisms and contemptuous glances, are still imprinted in her memory. But in that moment, as the chilly wind caressed her hair and the sound of water trickling like the music of liberation, Jada realized that all those wounds were no longer a burden, but now became evidence of the inner strength that helped her overcome countless challenges. She recalled every piece of advice, every disappointed glance she had ever heard, and now they were nothing but fragments of a past, helping her define her true self, a proud, strong woman who knows how to value herself. Next to her, Brad Pitt, who had to fight against considerable pressure from his conservative family, who was once rejected and looked down upon simply because he refused to yield to the rigid mold, now also stood there with eyes full of determination. Brad recalled the times when he was forced to live in the invisible cage of tradition, when every criticism, every judging glance cut deeply into his heart. But through every silent tear and every time he stumbled, he found the strength to rise, to dare to abandon old bonds and choose the path of personal freedom for himself. He understood that, although the past left scars that could never be erased, they were precisely vivid evidence of human capacity to overcome and be reborn. Amid the peaceful atmosphere of the morning, when the chirping of birds resounded throughout the neighborhood, Jada and Brad stepped out of the small apartment, leaving behind dark memories and the pressures of an unforgettable past. They walked through streets, through poetic alleys, where the morning light seemed to open the door of hope, of a new beginning no longer bound by meaningless prejudices. Each step of theirs was like an affirmation that personal freedom is an inalienable right, and that everyone has the right to live in the way that their heart always longs for. In those quiet moments, Jada recalled all the times she felt crushed, alienated merely because of differences that society deemed imperfect. She remembered the promises she had made to herself that, no matter how much pain, no matter how many tears fell, she would never give up the dream of living free, of living in a way that she truly felt. And Brad, with deep eyes containing so much faith, also reminded himself that every scar, every pain, was the source of motivation that made him stronger. He once dreamed of a life where he was not bound by rigid rules, where every moment was a chance to breathe truly freely and fully. Now, together with Jada, he had found that path, the path of self-awareness and courage. When they reached an ancient bridge spanning the calmly flowing river, where the weathered stones over time stood as witnesses to many historical upheavals, they stopped beside each other. That bridge became a symbol of transformation, of the harmony between the past and the present. Under the shimmering yellow lights, Jada and Brad looked at each other. No words needed, only glances that conveyed faith and the longing for freedom, as if they were exchanging an unspoken vow. We will live our own way. In that moment, the message of life emerged as clearly as the echo of nature. Life should not be determined by the past or by meaningless prejudices. Only courage and true love can help us find freedom and happiness. That message echoed through every breath, through every step they took, like a symphony of faith reborn from deep wounds. Jada recalled the times she was ridiculed, the moments she felt unworthy, solely because of her mixed skin tone and old prejudices. But now, she had learned to forgive herself, learned to transform those hardships into inner strength. She had turned pain into inspiration, turned every tear into a precious gem that helped her rise, rediscover herself amid the storm of fate. Brad also did not forget the scars on his soul, the times he was rejected, the moments he felt like a lost ghost in the stream of life. But through each step, through every bitter experience, he learned that, as long as one has enough courage to face the past, everyone can redraw the picture of their own future. He realized that criticisms and contemptuous glances were merely echoes of the past, and that only faith in oneself would help him become freer. Brad told himself that every step he took now was an affirmation of freedom, a declaration that, no matter how society tried to force him, he would always dare to live in the way his heart desired. As the gentle wind blew, carrying the whispers of the river and the scent of wildflowers growing by the roadside, Brad and Jada stepped onto the bridge where everything seemed to pause in a sacred moment. They stood together, hand in hand, then walked across the worn stone steps of the bridge, as if weaving a new story of love and freedom. The morning light reflected on the water, creating shimmering streaks like a promise of a future no longer bound by old prejudices. Their silhouettes gradually faded into the thin mist, leaving behind an indelible mark, an unerasable mark of faith and the longing for freedom. In the final moments of the morning, when the sound of the stream roared, When the first rays of sunlight filtered through every crack of the city, Jada and Brad walked along the long road leading to the future. They did not need to speak a word. Only their glances and gentle gestures spoke everything. That life can never be imprisoned by the past. That everyone has the right to choose their own destiny. They understood that, no matter how many difficulties and challenges, genuine love and self-awareness will always be the driving force that helps them overcome all obstacles. In that journey, Jada recalled the moments when she felt small and powerless before society's criticisms. But now, every scar, every tear was no longer a symbol of failure, but evidence of inner strength. A strength that helped her rise after every fall. She told herself that as long as she knew how to love herself, as long as she held on to faith, everything would change. The painful memories gradually became the source of inspiration for her to step into a free future, where she no longer had to live according to predetermined molds, where she could live fully in the way her heart always longed for. Brad also looked back on the road he had traveled, remembered the times he was rejected, the moments he felt as if everything were just faint illusions. But through every challenge, he learned that no one could decide his fate except himself. He turned his heartaches into the motivation to move forward, to affirm that love and self-control would always lead him to a free and fulfilling life. He understood that, no matter how many limits were imposed by family and society, as long as there is courage and faith in oneself, he would always find a way out. In the peaceful atmosphere of the morning, as each of their steps resonated with the affirmation of freedom, Brad and Jada shared the belief that only genuine love and self-awareness can open the door to happiness. They were no longer victims of the past, but had become warriors of freedom, daring to stand up, daring to live in the way their hearts always desired. That message, like the whisper of the wind and the chirping of birds, echoed throughout the space, inspiring everyone who yearned for freedom and wished to change their own destiny. As the light of dawn gradually dispersed the darkness of night, the story of Brad and Jada became evidence of the power of courage and faith in love. They walked through streets, through alleys of the city, where every step was an affirmation of personal freedom. They left behind the criticisms, the prejudices, and the pressures of the past to open a new chapter, a chapter of freedom, of self-control, and of love unbound by rigid rules. On the ancient bridge, where the calm river flowed over every stone, their silhouettes gradually faded into the thin mist, leaving behind an indelible mark, an unerasable mark of a new beginning full of implications, where destiny is no longer bound by old prejudices. That message, echoing through every gust of wind, every gentle gesture of those who long for freedom, will forever be an endless source of inspiration for those who dare to stand up, dare to live true to themselves. And finally, when the light of dawn filled the space, when everything seemed renewed by faith and the longing for freedom, the message of life emerged clearly. Life should not be determined by the past or by prejudices. Only courage and true love can help us find freedom and happiness. That saying resonated forever in the hearts of Brad and Jada, like an unspoken promise that, no matter how many challenges and pains, they would still walk the path of their own choosing, living fully in the way their hearts always longed for. In that sacred moment, amid the rustling of the wind and the warm morning light, they walked through the crowded streets, through the alleys of the city, opening up a future no longer bound by old prejudices. They left behind painful memories, useless criticisms, and moved forward with firm belief that personal freedom and the power to overcome prejudices are rights that can never be taken away. They walked, each step like an unspoken declaration that, no matter how everything around changes, love and self-control will always guide people to true happiness. And thus, under the clear sky of a new day, as the birds chirped throughout the space, Brad and Jada closed the final chapter of their journey, a chapter of freedom, of courage, and of love unbound by the past. They walked with the belief that everyone has the right to live in their own way, and that destiny, no matter how difficult, is only a challenge for people to affirm their own worth. They left behind a past full of rigid barriers and opened a new chapter where genuine love and self-awareness are always the guiding lights. In the light of dawn, as everything gradually became clear and hope overflowed, the story of Brad and Jada became evidence of the power of love and self-control. A power that can tear apart all barriers, break all old prejudices. They proved that only by daring to live true to oneself, only by daring to love and forgive oneself, can everything, even the painful past, become the driving force that helps them move forward, opening the door to true freedom and happiness. And when, finally, on the ancient bridge beneath the radiant sky of a new day, their silhouettes gradually faded into the mist, leaving behind an unerasable mark, a new beginning full of implications, where destiny is no longer bound by old prejudices. That message, echoing through every breeze, every gentle gesture of those who long for freedom, will forever be an endless source of inspiration for those who dare to stand up, dare to live true to themselves.